Title: The $15,000 Plane That Actually Flies. There's a phrase I hear all the time when people find out I fly airplanes. They usually smile, look a little impressed, and then say something like this: flying must be incredibly expensive. And in some parts of aviation, they're absolutely right. If you start looking at modern aircraft like the Cirrus SR-22, the Diamond DA-62, or something even larger like the Pilatus PC-12 NGX, the numbers can become almost surreal. A brand new Honda Jet Elite 2 or Cessna Citation Longitude can cost millions. Business jets like the Falcon 10X, Global 8000, or Gulfstream G8000s move into an entirely different financial universe. But here's something most people outside aviation don't realize. Not every airplane costs millions, not even close. In fact, there are real, flyable airplanes out there. Machines that can lift you into the sky and travel hundreds of miles, that cost about the same as a used car, sometimes even less. And today we're going to talk about a fascinating corner of aviation that many people completely overlook: the $15,000 airplane that actually flies. Now, before we go any further, let's be honest about something. Finding a good airplane for $15,000 isn't as easy as opening a car listing website. You have to look carefully. You have to understand what you're buying. And you have to accept a few realities about older aircraft. But the surprising part, many pilots do it successfully, and they end up owning something remarkable: an airplane. Let's start with one of the most famous entry points into affordable aviation, the Cessna 150. If you've ever spent time at a small airport, you've seen one. 2 seats, simple systems, a reputation for reliability that has lasted decades. For thousands of pilots, the Cessna 150 was the first airplane they ever flew. And while pristine examples cost more, older models occasionally appear on the market at prices that seem almost unbelievable compared to modern aviation. Another aircraft that sometimes appears in the surprisingly affordable category is the Grumman AA-1. Now, this airplane has a personality. It's lighter, sportier, and more responsive than many trainers. Pilots often describe it as more fun to fly than a traditional trainer like the Cessna 172 Skyhawk. And while the Skyhawk is famous for its stability and forgiving nature, the AA-1 feels a little more like a sports car in the sky. That personality makes it appealing to pilots who want something simple but exciting. Now, here's something interesting. Many people assume that older airplanes must be unreliable, but aviation doesn't work exactly like the car market. Airplanes are maintained under very strict inspection schedules. Every year, they receive detailed inspections. Critical components are monitored carefully, and when properly maintained, many aircraft remain perfectly safe and airworthy for decades. That's why airplanes like the Piper Cherokee 140, 160 horsepower, are still flying today, even though some were built more than 50 years ago. And those aircraft are still carrying pilots across entire states on a single afternoon. But let's pause for a moment and ask something important. If someone offered you 2 choices, a brand new luxury car, or an older airplane like a Piper Cherokee 140 or Cessna 150, which would you choose? A machine that sits in traffic, or a machine that can cross mountains and rivers in a couple of hours? I'd love to hear your answer in the comments, because the way people answer that question says a lot about how they see aviation. Now let's talk about why some airplanes become so affordable. The biggest factor is simple: age. Many aircraft built in the 1960s and 1970s are still flying today. Examples include airplanes like the Beechcraft Musketeer Sundowner, the Piper Comanche, or the Cessna 177 Cardinal. Some of these aircraft are incredibly capable machines. They can carry multiple passengers, travel hundreds of miles, and operate from relatively small airports. But when an airplane becomes older, its market value often drops, even if it still performs beautifully. Another factor is mission. Some airplanes were designed for very specific purposes. For example, bush aircraft like the Piper PA-18 Super Cub or Aviat Husky are fantastic for backcountry flying, landing on gravel bars, exploring remote areas, flying low and slow over forests and rivers. But if someone is looking for fast cross-country travel, they might prefer something like the Mooney M20U Ovation Ultra or Cessna TTX instead. Different missions create different market values. And that leads us to something fascinating: The aviation market often undervalues simple airplanes, aircraft that may not be fast, but are incredibly fun to fly. Take something like the Piper Cub J3. It's slow, it's simple, but it offers one of the purest flying experiences imaginable. Open windows, low altitude, the feeling that you're truly connected to the sky. Many pilots say their favorite flights happen in aircraft like that. Of course, there are also aircraft that offer a bit more performance without massive price tags. Airplanes like the Cessna 182 Skylane or Piper Saratoga can carry families on longer trips. And while they usually cost more than $15,000, they illustrate something important. Aviation offers an enormous range of possibilities, from basic two-seat trainers all the way to sophisticated machines like the Diamond DA50RG or Piper M600 SLS. And then, of course, there are the truly powerful aircraft. Turboprops like the Daher TBM 960, Epic E1000 GX, or King Air 260. These machines can cross entire countries in a day, but they also require serious investment. For many pilots, those aircraft remain something to admire rather than own. But here's the truth about the $15,000 airplane. It won't be perfect. It may have older avionics. The paint might be faded. The interior might feel like it came from a different era. But if it's well maintained, it can still do something extraordinary. It can fly. And when you climb into that cockpit, start the engine, and watch the runway disappear beneath you, the price suddenly matters a lot less, because you're doing something very few people ever experience. You're leaving the ground in your own airplane. Let's imagine something for a moment. It's a calm Saturday morning. The air is smooth. You walk out to a small airport where your airplane waits quietly on the ramp. Maybe it's a Cessna 150. Maybe it's a Grumman AA-1. Maybe it's a simple Piper Cherokee. You check the fuel, run through the checklist, and within minutes, you're climbing into the sky. The entire landscape opens beneath you. Mountains, rivers, cities in the distance. And suddenly that $15,000 airplane becomes something far more valuable. It becomes freedom. But now I want to ask you something. If you had to choose an affordable airplane for pure fun flying, what would it be? Would you pick a classic trainer like the Cessna 150? A sporty little airplane like the Grumman AA-1? Or something adventurous like the Aeropract A-22 Foxbat or Zenith CH-750 Stowell? Write your answer in the comments, because sometimes the most interesting aviation conversations start with a simple question. What airplane would you choose if the goal wasn't luxury, but simply the joy of flying?